That's what I'm saying. You don't want, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, you good. You
Man,
right.
bring it in some.
You right on point. You right on point.
Man, bring it in
You
some.
don't need to bring it in now.
This, hey man, what I say, man? Oh! Ah! Man, when I hear that song, man, it's like, what? Ah! Man! Well, I love that song, yeah. Need some bass in that mother. Come on up. Man, I got my fun hat on.
Hear that bass? Hear that bass?
Hey! Man. I always have a positive word. I'm here to serve.
Like live. Live. Pull up some. Pull up some.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. You've been watching shows all week.
Yeah, I saw that. They appreciate that too. Yeah. Coming along.
That's
Now.
yeah, I mean, we all need to do. That's why I called in.
What do you think about that Real Men Being Men?
Oh, that was nice, man. That was nice. I mean, Jermaine did an excellent job. I said, man, we should take all that right there and just have it on the list.
Yeah.
Every time somebody come on, that'd be part of it.
I'll point it out.
Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. This your host, Joaquin.
Hello.
You're on the air with Joaquin Jackson and the Daily Bread Radio Show. What's your name and where you calling from?
Where am I calling from?
Yeah.
My name is Jeanette White, and I'm calling from Yulee, Florida.
Okay. First time
How are
caller?
you?
This is the first time caller?
Yes, this is a first-time caller.
Oh, we got a prize for you. Play the prize, Raheem. Play the prize.
Want to play the prize?
Play the prize, man. We got a first time caller. All the way from Yulee.
Ooh. Well, good. I didn't know I was going to get anything.
Now you want, hey, a lot of people want to know like where I get that personality from. This is my aunt.
Oh.
This is my aunt that I asked to call in a few weeks ago. We've had a couple conversations going back and forth, and I wanted her to call in to just give us some perspective from a couple of different standpoints. And Auntie, I'm gonna have you hold on for 1 second, and then we're gonna get to you.
Okay.
And so before we get to our guest today, for those of you all that are joining for the first time, my name is Joaquin Thompson, and I'm the host of the Daily Bread Radio Show. And we're coming to you live from
Come on.
Atlanta.
You almost said it.
Snellville. Coming to you live from Snellville, the metropolis of the South. And each and every week we come to you from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on DKM Radio and Facebook Live to talk about personal finance. And it's my belief that everything is tied to personal finance. Everything from where you're born to where you transition, the car you drive, clothes you wear, food you eat, your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, kids, whatever. Healthcare, you name it, is tied to personal finance. So what we do on this show each and every week is to make sure we talk about different topics related to personal finance, but we also bring it from a spiritual perspective. We want to make sure that from a spiritual perspective, we're only speaking about things related to spirituality. We don't do religion because it's our belief that at the top, if you take all the different religions, when you get to the top, there's only one being at the top, and that's God. So,
Amen, brother.
so each and every week, that's our position. And every week we're blessed to have different guests. We have different experts. We have different people call in, give their testimony. And we also want it to be an environment what we call a safe environment. So that way you don't have to feel ashamed, embarrassed. We can talk about everything from bankruptcies to repos to, just struggling to, trying to make ends meet, because that's where I'm from. I'm from that. So I don't have a problem with, giving my personal opinion, giving you some feedback, and also giving you some things that have worked for me in my life, and also some things that are in books. I'm a big proponent of reading. Getting a lot of feedback. I'm a big proponent of reading because I believe that no man is going to live long enough to learn everything that he needs to know or she needs to know to be successful. So you can always pick up a book and just accelerate your learning by reading what's in the book. So with that being said, I want to bring on Jeanette White. Jeanette White is my aunt. She's calling from Yulee, Florida, and she had a very unique, I guess you would say, position, meaning that, and the reason I wanted to bring her on was for two reasons. One, I wanted her to come on because she's a little older than I am. And the reason that's important is because many times when we're discussing different topics on Daily Bread, on the Daily Bread radio show, and talking to different breadheads, a lot of times I think people are focused on the present, right? They're focused on 2018 and, my car note in 2018 and my, what I'm eating in 2018, and all these different things in 2018. And then a little bit, some people go as far as like, well, let me think a little bit about 2019. Maybe I'm planning a trip, right? But many times it's not, I'm planning from a financial standpoint, but the reason I wanted to bring on Ms. White is to give you some perspective of someone that is a little older than us, but also talk to two things. I want to bring on for two reasons. One, the importance of having a source of income even after you get beyond retirement age. Because now people are living longer. So right now it used to be the projected lifespan might be 65, 66 for a man, 72, 73 for a woman. But now, when you go and talk to financial planners, it's like, no, we need to plan for at least 90. I'm like, good grief.
Absolutely.
At least 90. And the people that I run into, they like 70. I'm not going to tell y'all the stories I heard. Some of these people, they say 70 is like the new 50. Because people at 70 are still active. They're doing, their businesses. They're traveling, they're doing, but at the same time, they have a need for income. So I wanted to bring on Ms. White and have her to tell, and she's also a business owner. And that was something else. So she has a great service that everyone needs. And I want her to come on and just talk about her business, talk about what was her driving force to get her started, and then we just gonna have a conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So with that, Auntie,
The first thing I want to say is when I was looking at your phone number, I looked at the last four digits, 1973. And I said, wow, my babies were just going to school. 1973. And so I looked at it again and I said, they graduated in 1984. And here we are in 2018. And I think I consider myself to be somewhat successful, at least in my thinking, and also my son, and you have excelled all of our expectations.
See, wait a minute though, but did you know that? Don't start, you got to present.
Don't reveal anything, good grief.
No, but no.
No, but I do want to talk about that.
It's this right here. It's too close to you.
I worked for 34 years for a company that is still taking care of me and is still a part of my life.
Wow.
And that was Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which is now Florida Blue. And they are the ones that influenced me to go back because there was a financial need in my family. And they said, come back, retirees, and let us show you how to make money from home, part-time if you prefer. And that was to learn and get your license to sell Medicare supplemental.
Wow.
And so yes, I'm already on Medicare, and I'm 71 years of age, and didn't give it a second thought because I wanted to work from home because of my husband's illness, and having to visit doctors so often, and you know, having to do other things. I also wanted to remain active in my church. So with all things considered, I went back, got my license for Medicare supplemental, and came home feeling real good about myself, and spoke to a gentleman that surely God had sent him to me. And his name is Randy, and I call him Boss Man, but he is considered my coach. I am a employee or a producer of United of Omaha Life Insurance Company, and he, representing that company, came to my home and spoke to me and my husband before he passed away about having insurance just for final expenses. We talked about background. We talked about our future earning potential. And he looked at me and he said, "Miss Jeanette, you have a portion of what you need. Why don't you go back to school? Or why don't you go, not school, why don't you study to get your 215, which is considered life and health insurance." And so I did that.
Wow.
It was kind of difficult, but I stuck with it because I love to read, and I heard you say that too, Mr. Thompson, about loving to read. And so I'm loving to learn, and so I did that, and that's how I got involved. But then 2017 came along, and I learned that there are so many people out there that does not have any type of money for their final expenses. So, I mean, I was just astounded at the number of people that do not or cannot afford money for final expenses. And that's how I became involved. And I decided to give my testimony. I decided to combine all of these things into one business. So when I go in and talk to someone, I'm not only trying to let them see that there is money out there for final expenses. We throw away $15, $20, $25 a month, you know, on junk. But
Right.
there is also the aspects of having your house in order, and no one wants to talk about that. Having your house in order, and I'm talking about, do you have a will? Do you have a dual power of attorney? Do you have a health care surrogate? All of those things make up to be a successful financial person. And, you know, that's just my little niche of the whole process.
Wow. I mean, that's a power. You've touched on a lot of different things that we talked about on the Daily Bread Radio Show. And one of the things so I'm just going to take each one and just touch on them in order, because it's several things that you mentioned that I feel that I want the listening audience to have an appreciation for. So first of all, just starting at the top. You said I'm 71 years old, but a while back, you were already a retiree. You had already given 34 years to, you know, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So at that point, you're like, hey, I'm retired. You know, I'm getting my, you know, retirement. I'm doing what retired people do. But you saw an opportunity, and an opportunity was afforded to you, and even at whatever age you was at that point in time, right? Mm-hmm. An opportunity came, but with that opportunity, you had to take some steps in order to make the opportunity real or manifest, right? It wasn't just like somebody was going to come and drop a sack of money in your lap, right? It was like, yeah, you have an opportunity, but you're going to have to go and get a license.
That's correct.
Right? Because the stipulation is, yeah, you can have the opportunity. We can have you sell a Medicare supplemental plan, but you got to have this license.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's correct.
So you have to have the initiative to say, okay, I'm going to take this course, or I'm going to read this, you know, information, or whatever it takes in order for you to get to the point where you're like, okay, I can secure my license. But then once I secure my license, now I have the opportunity to generate some additional income.
That's correct.
And now, so then you move from okay, we're gonna do Medicare supplemental, then you meet someone else, then you get your life and health. When you have your life and health license, now you have the ability to sell life insurance to individuals from a final expense standpoint. Now, on a previous show, that was one of the things I've talked about life insurance, the importance of life insurance, and then you said a key phrase that a lot of people don't use, but I think it should be used more often is your house in order?
Yes.
Is your house in order? And that's something that each of us, when we get up every day, that's something that we should be asking ourselves on a daily basis, not once a month, once a year, once every 5 years. Every morning when you get up, you should say, is my house in order? And if it's not in order, and we're talking about and my personal opinion is this: final expenses is like a step one. That's like pre-K, right? It's like the least that you can do if God blesses you to be on this earth plane for X number of years. And during that period of time, I think it's every man and every woman's obligation to at least have your final expense covered. So that way, if whatever happens, if the gods call you home, or whatever term you use for it, if you transition from this earth, you pass away, or as some people say, you die, at least you don't leave that burden to your family members. Out of love, you said, hey, I'm not going to leave you a bunch of cars, a bunch of houses, a bunch of gold, a bunch of silver, a bunch of rubies, a bunch of stocks. But just know that if something was to happen to me, then I've taken care of me.
Yes.
I've at least done that. I've at least taken care of me. So I think that, and the third thing is, they're so deep, and that's why when I saw it, and how this conversation came about, this came about because I saw a posting that you made on Facebook saying, hey, I'm selling, I have a life insurance business, reach out to me. And I'm saying to myself, like, Auntie's 71 years old, and she out here hustling.
Well, you know what? Starting out a new business without having any money you can fall back on. I use social media because it was available and the quickest way I could get on there. I don't like everything I see on Facebook, but I said if I put a tastefully worded little blurb out there, then people would know that, what I'm doing. I have put pictures out there and, of things that I've done in my life, but the most important thing that I'm doing right now in my life is making sure that people are aware that there are companies out there that if you start out with one rate, you'll continue that rate forever for 121 years. And Mutual of Omaha has that program, and that's how I got involved. After I looked at that and read it, I said, there is no reason why people can't afford $20 or $15 a month. And then if they love their family, they will then provide that for their families, because all of us are appointed once to die. And that's in the Bible.
Woo! Auntie, you bringing that heat?
I mean, it's all tied in there, so.
But no, that's how honest we need to be with each other, and just in full transparency. I mean, you are my aunt, right? But at the same time, so you've seen me from 4 years old, right?
Yeah.
From 4 years old to 51. And so all of the stuff in between. And at 71, you're saying, you know what? I see an opportunity. And most people, even now, I don't do social media. I'm like, I get it. You don't have to do social media, because social media is not a verb, it's a noun, right? So you don't have to do social media. But again, another point that you brought up that's very important, our seniors, 70 years old, right? 71 years old. I have a business, this is what I'm doing, and you figure like the quickest way for me to get the word out is for me to learn how to do a post on social media, how to use post. I mean, to me, that's just, it's so advanced in thinking, because a lot of people, they're not even gonna take the time to learn. Like, I don't want to do that foolishness. Like, that's a bunch of foolishness, right?
Yeah, I've heard that aplenty.
Yeah, like, oh, what? I ain't doing no Twitter, and I ain't gonna be on Facebook, and I don't do all that. I don't want people to know who my business. But I'm saying, just even if you're not posting nothing, but like, hey, if you need some information on life insurance, if you need some information on filing expense, then reach out to me. And that is what it's about. Our community should be about us providing information and having the resources within our community so we don't have to venture out. Because I remember when I was a little kid, there used to be a guy that he would come through, I don't care how bad the community was. It could be Washington Heights, Cleveland off, Emerson off, Moncrief. He didn't care how bad the neighborhood was. I would see this little guy walking through the neighborhood. I said, why is this man going to everybody's house? He would go from house to house. I said, what is this guy doing? Mm-hmm. But when I became of age, I learned he was coming through our community selling life insurance.
That's right.
He was selling life insurance. So I'm saying now that we have the ability and the opportunity and the platform, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, these are platforms to be leveraged in order for us to benefit from it. This ain't like I'm like, I don't use social media. I don't want to get on and see everybody twerking and saying these old crazy sayings. If you don't like me, I don't like you either. I'm like, oh, good grief. But I have found some very good resources from a personal, professional, and business aspect on Facebook.
That's right. It's what you're looking for, actually. If you want to look for the dirt, it's out there. And, if you want to look for someone that's not doing correct or not upholding their standards or integrity or whatever, all of that is on Facebook. It's what you go out there, what you're looking for.
So let me ask you a question, Auntie. Yeah. So you 71. So it's a lot of people in the listening audience look, your son and your nephew's age, right? Yeah. That are contemplating starting a business, contemplating, getting into an opportunity. What advice would you give them from a economic or business opportunity standpoint, being as though you're, 20 years our senior at this point?
Yes. Well, the first thing I would do is look at the resources that you have. You can go online. If you don't know how to go online or use a computer or whatever, you can go out there and have any of your family members sign you on to get some type of scholarship. They have all kinds out there. They have, especially for low-income people. You have to go out there and find it. You can't sit around saying what you don't have. Another thing I say, find out what you're passionate about. And God had to show me what I was passionate about, because had I done this myself, after leaving Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which was all about Medicare insurance, I should have went into selling Medicare insurance. But he had to open my eyes to let me see what I was passionate about, and that was like helping people. I've seen families where they had to go to the pawn shop and pawn the TV and all of this to get money just for a cremation.
Wow.
And I experienced that with my own godchild of having to scrape up money, and there was all kind of educational stuff that went through in 2017.
Right.
But to get back to it, people have to know what they're passionate about. Something that you won't mind doing. You won't mind getting out of bed to do. It may be cooking, or it might be washing cars, detailing cars. Because I love detailing my own car.
So you gonna open up wait a minute, Auntie, so you gonna have an insurance detail shop? Is that what you're saying now?
No, I just love detailing my own car. So I'm the one that's gonna do it right. And I don't have to tip myself. So anyway, But you have to be passionate about what you're doing, in order to even give yourself the thought that you want to start a business or go into something, because it's really not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. That's what they have told me. But I had no idea that I would one day be an insurance lady, as they call it. So, but another thing, if you are able to sell yourself, then you'll get people to buy what you have. And I just plainly tell my testimony. I have a testimony because God has given me one. I mean, it's not, there's no magic in it. But I think that's number 2, is that you got to have that passion. And number 3, you got to be a go-getter. Because nobody's going to walk up and give you anything.
Right.
So you have to go and be a go-getter. You can't, just sit around and say, well, I can sit here and watch TV, while the lights are on. Or I can go out there and make some money and keep the lights on. So, I mean, there is, it's not, you don't have to be a scientist. You just have to get up off your duff and do it.
Well, hey, Auntie, you show you show blessed the show today. My producer over, he like that nod like this. Anytime we ever get on, he nod. I'm like, yeah, man, she bringing it runs in the family. You think this just came up? I was like, this runs in the family, man. You think I get all this from having this show? But I definitely want to thank you for coming on today. But before you leave us, how can people get in touch with you? The insurance lady down in Yulee, selling.
Hey, they can call me on my cell phone.
Okay.
Which is my business. So it used to be just everybody hit me up on the phone, but now it's like this is business here. But my number is 904.
Okay.
703.
703.
7334.
7334. Okay.
And I work for this awesome company, United of Omaha Life Insurance Company, and they have many names. It's called Mutual of Omaha, and they have several companies. They just recently, I do a lot of online training, and I'm now learning how to sell mortgage protection. And my husband passed in March of this year.
Yes.
And I wish I had that insurance. The mortgage protection covers the person's life, and it's solely for paying off your mortgage with a cash benefit in it. But it's based on, it's a whole life insurance policy.
Right.
That is designed to create a cash value in it. And all of it has affordable rates. And that's why I love doing this, because if I want to get $15,000-$20,000 on a person, and it begins at age 45, you can do it. That's like under $50 a month.
Okay.
And you don't need that much, because I had a budget of $10,000 when my husband passed, and I exceeded the budget, but then I had to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people now that if you are, grieving in such a way that you cannot rationalize or whatever, then you need to have someone else go with you to make funeral arrangements,
Right.
because I had my son and his wife there, my best friend, my niece and nephew, and all of those people helped me stay within the budget that I had. And they talked about flowers, they talked about family cars, and I said, hey, all my family got cars, so I don't need a family car.
Right.
So you have to be rational,
Right.
when you're dealing with family expenses. So
Right.
I appreciate you having me.
No, I appreciate you. You just came. Probably you supposed to. I thought you was gonna call me first. You just pop up on the show. I'm like, look at you. You told me you was gonna be at the church conference last week. We had Wally Amos on last week.
Oh God, it was awesome. I was in Orlando.
Okay. Okay.
And we was at the Hyatt in Orlando, and my bishop, who lives in Stark, Florida, gave us a theme of stand your ground. And that's what you have to do in these days and times. I mean, and you know the controversy that's right there now about stand your ground laws.
Yes.
But we have to do the same thing when we are dealing with people who want to not honor God in their lives. You know, we have to stand our ground because we know what the word says.
Ooh, that's powerful.
And I ain't gonna even stop preaching.
Don't, hey, I was gonna say, I was gonna say, Sister White, don't start. Sister White, don't start, because we don't have no, hey, I thank you, baby. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you for everything that you've ever done for me. And we're gonna make sure we get some, we're gonna put the number in the chat. And you feel free to call us at any time if there's anything that we can do to help you out. Help the insurance lady or you, Lee. Y'all give her a call at 904-703-7334. That's Miss Jeanette White.
Yes, and I have some financial information. And just recently I went to the Jacksonville Legal Aid.
Okay.
And they did some papers for me. So you have to go, it's out there. You just have to ask people, find out where, if you need a will, if you need a health care surrogate, if you need a dual power of attorney, they'll do it for you. And it's all based on your income.
Wow. And that's some awesome information. That's some awesome information because that takes all of the excuses off the table, and at the same time we can be helping.
Get your house in order. That's my last word.
That's it. So we want to make sure you get your house in order. And Auntie, I love you. You take care of yourself.
Okay.
And I'll be in touch with you.
So much.
And thank you for calling the show, definitely.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. That was powerful.
Yes, sir.
That was powerful. And the reason I wanted her to call in was just that, because I was, going through on Facebook, and I was like, she posted something saying, hey, I got my insurance business I'm doing. I'm like, insurance business? I'm like, she said, I'm just starting my insurance business. And I was calculating, because I said, I'm 51. So I said, Auntie, you got to be like 71, 72, 70. But like she was saying, the other thing, too, that she's always willing to give her testimony is the fact that she lost her husband back in March of this year. And going through that process, she touched on it here on the show, but that was something that we was talking about a few weeks ago. Even that has to do with personal finance, right? Because we talked about it, and we made light of it, like, well, hey, you get to that point. Some people thinking they want to have a funeral, but when you get in there and your loved one has just passed away, and now you sitting in front of a funeral director. The funeral director family member didn't pass away, so he or she, they fine. They in their right mind. They not grieving. They're all about their business, and they looking at you like, hey, we can give you whatever you want. You can get all the family cards. You can get all of the repasses. We can do all of that, but it's a price. It's a price for that. So if you've planned accordingly, and you want all of the bells and whistles, then go for it. You want a Dove release and all this other stuff, they got it for you. You want the carriage, they're gonna put the coffin in the carriage and bring you down Main Street. They'll do all of that. They'll gladly do it. Matter of fact, that's what they want to do. But you have to be astute enough. And she dropped some wisdom in that little short period of time. She said, you need to take somebody with you. Because if you go and you grieving your family member, you just like, oh yeah, whatever. And if you tell them like, well, I got $20,000, when you leave out of there, your bill gonna be $19,999. I promise you.
And a half.
And 50 cents.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave you 50 cents. But that's just the way it goes. So you need to take, and the thing that we have to do is be better stewards of receiving information from our elders. She's 20 years ahead of us. So if we 50 and 45 and 35, this is our aunt, our grandparents. She's a grandparent. They talking to you. They're like, look, this is what you need to do. So if she's doing it at 71, if she has a business at 71, what does that say about us? If we fit, we need to have a business. And notice she didn't say a hustle. She said what? I went to legal aid. They put some things in place. I had to take the test. It was hard, but I had to get licensed because you can't sell life insurance without having a license. But then when she got the license, guess what? Other opportunities opened up for her. Now you can sell life insurance and you can sell final expense insurance. Now I'm getting into mortgage protection. But when she went into it, she had no knowledge of any of that. So that was a blessing just to have her call in, and great spirit. So I mean, if you're all in the the state of Florida, I know we have a lot of guests on from Duval County and surrounding areas. She's right there at Yulee and back and forth to Jacksonville. So definitely give her a call, because the other thing that we need to do is we need to start keeping our revenue within our community and not let our dollars go outside of the community. Spend our money with each other. Like whatever we're looking for, take the time. Sometimes it might be, you have to be deliberate about it, but take the time to find the person that has the product or the service that you're seeking.
Yeah.
Take the time to see that. I seen a young lady day before yesterday on Facebook, a young sister, and she was like, we need to be boycotting some of these nail salons. We go in there, they treat our women any kind of way, they talk about them, and at the same time, we giving them money. Mm-hmm. You go in some of these convenience stores, you buy something. When you buy something, the person is supposed to give you your change in your hand. Like when you're supposed to put your change in your hand. They throw the money on the desk.
Yeah.
Like here, shove it up under the thing. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, can I get a bag? No, that ain't service. You don't pay for that. And you spending your money. Mm-hmm. So you got to be good stewards of how and where and who you spend your money with, so that way, because that's serious. Like, I'm not going to spend my money with somebody who will treat me any kind of way. Yeah. I'm just not, that ain't. And we shouldn't teach our children to do that either. And if they ain't doing, and it's just nails, right? And it's just hair, you can get that anywhere. But you can get that from somebody who's going to show you some respect. At least respect me while I'm in your presence, while you're taking my money. Yeah. Now, when I leave and you got all these, ethnic jokes you want to tell, okay, but in my presence, don't do it. Don't treat me like that in my presence. And a lot of sisters, brothers included too, we get taken advantage of, and we still give them our money. We still support all of these, negative causes, negative people. Like, we got to get away from that. Our dollars have power. Every dollar that you have possession of has power. Mm-hmm. Every dollar has power. Every dollar. So I think she has some great information, and definitely take heed to that. And that's the theme for today's show. Is your house in order? And in another space, that's something that we ask each other, with me and some of my friends in another space, is before you start talking about what's going on over across the street and down, and your co-worker and such, is your house in order? And if the answer to that is no or maybe, then focus that energy on getting your house in order. Getting your final expenses in places like, that's monumental. Yep. That shows that you are a true king or queen in your space. Because you're like, no, if nothing else, I'm gonna take care of me. Yep. Right? I'm gonna take care of me. And you don't have to worry about, ain't nobody going to no pawn shop, ain't nobody gonna be selling no bean pies. No, we ain't doing none of that. But it may not be no Dove release, but I promise you it'll be a good feeling to know that nobody have to chip in to do and honor you. Your family can honor you with the proceeds from what you put in place. So you have to ask yourself every day, is your house in order? And that's something for all of us. So that was some great commentary. Man, I don't think I can go. I can't not.
I don't know what that is, man.
God darn. Maybe I'm nervous, man. Maybe I'm nervous. I think that's what it is.
Something going on.
I can't not. I can't not do it. Calling you on with the Daily Bear Radio Show. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is
Hey man, wait a minute. You was fading out. Mm-hmm. I ain't really hear you was fading out, man. You gonna have to put your speaker.
Turn the speaker off.
You gonna turn the speaker off or and get your phone on, man. You was a little light, man. You a little light. So I'm gonna say that again, man.
I got you covered.
What's your name? What's your name and where you calling from? It's football season now. The Jaguars playing the Falcons side, so I need to hear some of that enthusiasm, man.
This is Brian Stewart calling from Duval.
That's what I'm saying, boy. No, that ain't that, man.
Oh, that ain't him?
Man, this is the singer.
Oh, that's just,
This is the Daily Bread.
Oh, I thought it was my man.
No, you thought this was the other Brian.
What he say?
Duval. Nah, man, this the originator.
Okay, there you go.
This the originator, man. What's going on, man? What's on your mind?
Hey, man, just to chime in on what the previous caller was saying.
Uh-huh.
Also, a very important part about that is the term life and whole life. You know, I'd like for you to, expand on that a little bit, just so everybody would know.
Okay, for sure. I can do that. And what I'll do is I'll tread lightly. We got 2 callers? Okay, so I'll take that big D. I'm gonna write that down. And we got another caller. Caller, what's your name and where you calling from?
I'm from the NYC, the bread man.
Cornbread at you.
Is that Cornbread? Is that you?
That's me, baby. That's me through the wire, through the air. Man.
That's what's happening, man. Cornbread, you the man?
You gonna eat your cornbread?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Check it
man.
out. Auntie White, man, she dropped some knowledge, man.
Man.
She sound like she's 41.
Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute now. Wait, hey, Cornbread. Wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
You got this. She sound good. We always think of seniors sounding,
Tired.
that age.
Oh.
She sound nothing like that. She
Nah.
sounded very good and knowledgeable, and she spreads the word. She had my attention, so.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you like this.
And I'm looking forward to, talking to her because someone did post on one of my social media about, taking care of your house.
Mhm.
And it's just ironic that, every time the spirit is moving our way, it's always bringing us back to what we've seen somewhere else, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So somebody had mentioned, why you, go fund for somebody passing, you better get your life insurance. And I was like, and that was just a couple of days ago.
Hey.
She's now talking about this.
Yes, man.
And that's why I was so intrigued on what she was saying.
But and that's the thing, and my good friend, my cousin, he's on too, and he he wants me to touch on that term versus whole life. But the thing about that question, is your house in order? That should make you stop and think, like, okay, where am I at in my life? And look at my age. And the thing that was so powerful, why I had to get it on was, I'm serious, man. I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I'm like, wait a minute. All these people telling me, just like me and you was talking last week, when Wally was here. He 82, and he started the cookie company at 82.
Yeah.
She's 71. I'm talking about I've known her my whole life. She ain't had no business, right? She wasn't no entrepreneur. So when I saw she was like, hey, I'm starting my new business, I was like, whoa. I know that was big, but then when she came on and was like, I had to get a license, I had to study, I had to do, and just to show everybody the need that's going to be there. We talking 20 years into the future. This ain't no retire and then you just kick your feet up and be like, well, I'm good, and I'm no. It ain't gonna work like that. Because people are living to like 80, 85 now. Wally in here, he 82. So that means he still got to eat.
Her demeanor didn't sound nothing like, if you're going to mention her age, just hearing her voice and what she was saying, it sounds like a college kid. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
I thought maybe she was like 35, 40 tops.
Man, I'm telling you, listen, her spirit, and her spirit is so lively that she was in business mode when she was on. But if you was to meet her in person, man, I'm talking about one of the best. I'm not talking about a person. I'm talking about one of the best spirits that your spirit can come in contact with.
Wow.
And we talked about that last week, and I talked about that earlier this week on another show, where a lot of times when you meet people, it's not about the words that you say, it's the feeling and the energy you get even before you say something.
Yeah.
But if you was to meet her in person, man, I'm about to bring on the show. I'm about to bring up to Atlanta, bring on the show. Or I go to Duval. Oh, you know we can go to Duval. That ain't no problem.
I'll be down there end of September. We're going to get some things popping, you know what I'm saying?
Oh man, always.
I'll be back.
Always. And I'm gonna touch on this this term hold. This is my personal opinion. So definitely what I always say when it comes down to making life decisions, things like investments, retirement, life insurance, I'm gonna give you my personal opinion, and then I'm gonna charge you to go out and do the research to find out what's best for you. Because when you start talking about insurance, it's definitely not a cookie cutter. It's not a one size fit all. You have to think about what's going to be best for you and your situation. So, you know, the previous caller, my cousin, he wanted to know, wanted me to touch on term versus whole life. So I'm gonna give you the short version. Term is a lot cheaper, and term will give you the ability to cover yourself without having to spend an excessive amount of money. That's my best definition of it. Meaning you can go out and get $50,000 worth of term, $20,000 worth of term. And like she said, you can get $20,000 worth of term life insurance, and you should be paying under $50 a month. Period. So the beauty of that is this. If you got $20,000 worth of term, you don't need $20,000 in final expenses. No. Right? Truth be told, you could go the route of being cremated, right? That's $1,000, let's say $1,000, $1,500, right? Have it service somewhere. You might even have it at the graveside, right? So that might be another, $400 or $500. But less than $2,000, your final expenses covered. So now you walking around, you say, hey, I got a $20,000 policy, and if you want to bequeath or leave some money to somebody or do something or take care of something else, it's less than $50 a month, and we spending that kind of money in just buying coffee and snacks and treats and cookies and cigarettes and weed and everything else. But is your house in order? So I think she brought the right theme to today's shows. Is your house in order? So from a term standpoint, you could spend, a very minimal amount of money and get coverage. The other good thing about term is you can spend a little bit more money, and if you want to expand the coverage. So if you want to get $100,000 or $200,000, $300,000. I looked at a policy, maybe it's probably about 7 or 8 months ago. I was talking to a friend of mine before I went out and got my life insurance license back in May. And me and him was talking. He was like, hey man, you could get $300,000, and I'm 51. He said, you could get $300,000 worth of term life insurance for under $150 a month. $300,000. So what does that mean? That means if something happened to me, somebody gonna write a check to my family for $300,000. Yeah. So you bet at that point, and it's just like going to Vegas. If you know the horse is gonna run, because the horse is gonna run, you just don't know when the horse gonna run. But the horse gonna run. So now you betting against, is the horse gonna run before this time span? Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind with term life, term insurance is over a certain period of time. So typically it's 10-year policy, 15-year, 20-year, 25. So you know the horse is gonna run. Right? The horse is gonna run. You already know the horse is gonna run, but you don't know when the horse is gonna run. Might be a year, might be 25 years. Right? And I've seen both cases. I've seen people get a policy, 3 years later, the horse runs. And I've seen people get a policy, and 25 years later, the horse still in the barn. Yeah, ain't doing that. Right? The horse ain't ran yet, and you done had it covered for 25 years. No, you ain't get the whip out. We want that horse to be sitting down in that stall, but hey, but the thing about it is, either way you cover, right? But you don't have to spend a lot of money. You say under 150. Now, when you go to whole life, you start talking about whole life insurance is more expensive than term. But she brought up one of the things that some people overlook when you start talking about, and the term is permanent. Listen to this word, and you go out and do your own research. It's called permanent whole life insurance. Key word is permanent. Permanent means from now, the way they write the policies now is from your current age up to 124. Now, I had some people in my family live a long time. I haven't had a 124. So the horse is going to run between 51, and we know the horse is going to run between 51 and 124. 1,000%, right? So with that being said, the beauty of that is this. As you age, your premium does not change. It stays the same from 51 to 124. Most times the premium will end at 100 or 90, something like that. It depends, because it's different policies you can get. You can get a 10-year pay, you can get a 20-year pay, you can get a 30-year pay. And what does that mean? That means you pay into the policy for 10 years, then they don't pay nothing else. But your policy will keep growing up to 124. That's whole life. So yeah, your premium may be high. You might be paying, so you paying 150 a month, you may be paying 500 a month. But guess what? When you get to be 79 and you've outlived your term policy, you're not trying to get the policy, a new policy put in place, which, you know, they say, oh, well, you can get approved for a policy. I'm not worried about getting approved. I'm concerned about what's the rate going to be at 79 years old trying to get life insurance. Because they're going to be betting like in a year or two, you're probably going to be gone. Statistically, it says that you're going to be gone in 2 or 3 years. So we got to charge you $3,000 a year for the policy. Or $3,000, it could be $3,000 a month. It don't matter. But these are the kind of conversations and things that we should be thinking about while we younger, in our 50s, 40s, 30s, hopefully in our 20s. Because everybody's thinking, don't nobody want to talk about the horse leaving the barn, but the horse is going to run. We just don't know when the horse is going to run. So you take that information, term, and that's why I say for a final expense, put that $50 and bet it on yourself, get your final expense policy. Then if anything happens, if that horse runs, you good. You good. Ain't nobody going to look for no money. You good. You covered. You got a nice service. And if you want to just do a big funeral, what have you, and spend the whole $20,000 on that, so be it. But at least you covered. And it's nothing like having that peace of mind, knowing that if something was to happen to you, you're not leaving a burden on your family. You being responsible as an adult and said, hey, I'm not leaving a whole bunch of stuff, so don't be looking for that, right? But you don't have to worry about taking care of me. So that's the short version. Term and the other, before we get off of whole life, here's something else that I want everybody to take into consideration and think about. Because this is something that's powerful that a lot of people are utilizing, but in our community, we haven't been exposed to it. I talked about this on 2 shows maybe 6 months ago. Life insurance. These life insurance policies do have something that's called a dividend payout, meaning that the insurance company, depending on how the insurance company does, from a profitability standpoint, they will pay you a dividend in your life insurance. So in addition to your cash value, you get a dividend that's added to your cash value. The beauty and the power of that is this. If you get a policy that has a dividend payout and you have that policy in force over a period of time, what tends to happen is you'll get to the point where you have enough money in your policy, not where you could just take it out and be frivolous with like, oh, I'm going to take it out and buy a watch, or I'm going to take it out and buy some Jordans. But you'll be able to take that money out, buy you a franchise, start you an insurance business, take your licensure exam, help your kids go to college, whatever you want to use it for. But that money won't be coming directly out of your account. It's coming out of what's known as the general account, which is the insurance company's account. So your money is steadily growing. Even though you've taken money out, your money's still growing as if you've never made a withdrawal. So you become the bank. This is something that you can research. It's called an infinite banking system. Somebody exposed me to it. I brought the books on the Daily Bread Radio Show. The first one was Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. The second book that I read was The Banker's Code by, what was the guy's name? Oh, man. His name, George Anton. George Anton. The Banker's Code. And the third one was called Bank on Yourself by Pamela Yellen. I read these 3 books. When I got to read those 3 books and had a more, I guess you would say, in-depth understanding of how this process works, I started one. I said, well, let me start one, because then that way I'm taking the same advice that I'm giving. Because a lot of people give advice. It's like you going to a doctor and you got a fat doctor, right? You got a fat doctor and the fat doctor is telling you need to lose weight. So you looking at the fat doctor saying, well, all right, what about you? Like you bumping into me with your stomach trying to do the exam. Like what? It's the same thing. So I can't be on the Daily Bread radio show week in, week out telling you, oh, you need to, save, you need to invest, you need to get your credit on, and then I'm not utilizing that information. Infinite banking system is powerful. I'm teaching it to my children. I've talked to my daughter about it. I've talked to my son about it. I've talked to my oldest daughter about it. Because the younger that you start, you can have enough cash value. I call it cash benefit. You can have enough cash benefit in this policy over time where you are the bank. I'm talking about you not going to the bank no more to get no more loans. You're not getting no credit pull. If you need $15,000, you go to your policy and get $15,000. If you need $20,000, you go to your policy and get it. And guess what? Your policy keeps growing. It keeps growing. And your premiums never change because it's the same. It's permanent. It's permanent. So you ain't have to worry about later on in life, you develop, heart disease, you got something else. It's permanent. You good. You good. But that's the way that we have to start thinking as a group of individuals within our communities, so that way we can improve our legacy and we leverage every single dollar that we have come through our hands. Every dollar that we have come through our hands, we leverage it. We leverage it by taking actions on things like whole life, permanent life insurance policies, and the other thing, and I'm gonna leave you all with this, you can also do a combination. You can have some whole life insurance because you want to take advantage of the infinite banking system, and then layer it, say, hey, you know what? I like the fact that I can get $300,000 at $150. So now you got an estate, and I read that in a book. This guy said the quickest way, because most people say, well, I don't need no will, I don't need a trust, I don't have no estate. What I need estate planning for? The quickest way to create an estate is to open and start a life insurance policy. If you have a life insurance policy, $20,000 policy, $30,000 policy, $10,000 policy, guess what? Now you have an estate. Come on, y'all. We talking about you can get $150 for $150. You can control $300,000. It's not gonna come to you. It's gonna go to your seed. But that's fine. That's no different than sending them to college. That's no different than telling them yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's fine for them to get $300,000. But guess what? You can now have an estate plan and dictate where and what the money's going to be used for. And not $300,000 worth of Jordans, right? Not 3 Bentleys, none of that foolishness. But you're like, no, this is going to be for this. This is going to be for my grandson's education. This is going to be for my great-grandson's education, my great-granddaughter. You can put an estate plan in place and put it into a trust. It's bulletproof. Bulletproof. And that's how you get your house in order. So you reach out to people like my aunt, the insurance lady of Yulee. I'm going to be joking with her because she's crazy. But you reach out to Miss White, you give her a call, or you reach out to or you could call me. I got a life insurance license here in Georgia. So if you're in Georgia and you need some life insurance, call me. Call, text, you can email me, Twitter, and we can put a final expense policy in place because, again, we need to start taking care of each other and holding each other accountable. Don't say you love me and you know I don't have no life insurance. Because love does what? Love disciplines.
You don't love me.
You don't love me. Like, you ain't got no, like, baby, you ain't got no life. Like,
How you gonna love me?
how you gonna love me? You ain't got no life insurance. Instead of talking about credit score, like, baby, you got no life insurance. But that's what it is. So we're at the top of the hour, and again, I had all these notes for another show, but it's just like when you go to church. We go with the Spirit say.
Yeah, you come on,
Right?
Hallelujah.
I need all of it. And we gonna Spirit.
Hallelujah.
I've been out of asthma. You better leave them men alone and move it in. No, I'm just leave that
All right,
alone.
you better stop now.
I better stop, man. We gonna get
right,
like we was a kid. We gonna get struck by lightning.
Look,
We ain't gonna get struck by lightning in here, man. But definitely powerful show. Could not forget that, but still, book of the week. Here's the book of the week. And I'll talk more about this next week because we get back into a very important time of year. We get to the point where we get ready to get into the fourth quarter of the year, meaning the last 3 months of the year. This is a great book. If you haven't read it, it's a great book to read. And if you have read it, it's a good book to go back and reread. This book is called The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. The Richest Man in Babylon. This is when I say a classic, this book was written in the early 20th century, like 1910, 1915, something like that. The first copy came out. And the information that's in this book, no, I'm lying. See, that's why you always have to look. 1926.
God almighty.
So I was lying. I said 1910. Okay. But listen to the years that it was printed. 1926, 1930, 31, 32, 36, 37, 40, 46, 47, 54, 55. And then it jumps up into the 90s. But those were the first printings. Now what's important about that? This book was out during the what? Great Depression. The Richest Man in Babylon. Get a copy. The book is only $9.99. You can probably get it off of Amazon for $4.99. It's an easy read, but the rules of this book is how you can become not rich, wealthy. Because he has principles in this book that are laws. And the people that follow these laws, that's what they become, wealthy, over time. It's not get rich quick. So they put 500 in tomorrow, you come back, you're a millionaire. Over time. And we all have time because at 51 years old, I've had time. And if I got 20 more years to live, I have time. So I'm going to plant those seeds and let them grow. Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. Make sure you pick up a copy. So with that being said, I can't get off the show without saying, Cornbread, you still there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did Brian drop?
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I cannot go and close this week's show without saying, last week's show,
Come on.
this studio has not been the same since last week. When this gentleman was right here, I know it ain't been the same.
Come on. Say
It ain't been the same, man.
Say it.
Look, when I was sitting across from this guy with all of that wisdom, and my plan, again, thinking about the spirit, my plan was to come on, I wanted to talk about his business, talk about all the stuff he learned in business, everything. This man came on here and had a life message.
Yes.
He had a life message for anybody that was willing to listen. It wasn't about, he didn't even want to talk about business. We didn't even talk about business. But he talked about something that was so deep. Immediately after that show, I had texts, people calling me said, man, I listened to that broadcast and the whole time I had chills. People reached out to me. I had a family member reach out to me, said, I have a vast vocabulary. I am extremely intelligent and very articulate, but I have no words for what I just experienced. I said, God dang. I said, what? I had another friend of mine tell me, he said, you know what? He said, I don't know what the agenda was. He said, but the information that Wally Amos shared with us, he said, changed my life. And I know for me, I've been going back, I looked at the video just between last Thursday and then, I probably looked at that video 20 times. At least 20. Once I got past the laughing, once I got past the laughing, it was a whole bunch of laughing. But the thing about that laughing was this. It showed where his spirit was. it showed the spirit of who he was and where he came from. So I was just, I mean, Cornbread, I'm indebted to you for that, man. I appreciate you taking the time for coordinating everything and getting them down there. We definitely gonna have to get them back on. The cookies were ridiculous. I didn't tell I didn't even bring. Bro, I ain't bring none of them cookies up here, man.
Why?
I didn't even know if you ate cookies.
Bring more PSC.
You might have had a cookie allergy or something, man. I ain't want you to break out in that, man. I ain't know if you had a chocolate chip allergy or something.
Man, bring some cookies up.
All right, man. We'll reach out to Wally, man, and order some.
Oh, you don't eat them all?
Man, I ate the whole bag.
That's a dog.
No, wait a minute. First of all, Cornbread was the one that was holding out. Cornbread had a trunk full of them.
What?
And he didn't even bring them in the studio, man.
Not my man. No.
And we had a studio audience.
That Cornbread.
He slid me some at the last minute. He said, "Hey, man, he did it like a drug deal." Cause look, after we left the show, we went had break. I was like, I said, all right, man, I'm about to go. He said, hey,
Cornbread did me like that, man.
He said, did you like that? He said, look, man, he was looking around. He said, look. He said, I got some cookies in the car, man, but
no.
I said, Cornbread, you was holding out on the cookies? He said, hey, man, hey, keep it down. Keep it down. But I got a bag for you in the car. I said, oh, that's what's up.
Man.
He went out there and slid them to me like this. You know when somebody pass you something like this?
Yes.
I said, why is he passing me? I was like, he had me worried. And I'm looking around, I'm thinking,
hey.
I'm thinking some kind of drugs.
I want you to listen to something.
Okay.
Tell Cornbread, hold on for a second.
Cornbread, hold on for a second, man. We're going to play something. Play a segment.
Aloha, this is Wally Amos, and you are listening to the Daily Bread.
Man, we can't hear it, man.
Play it again. Play it again. Play it
This is
again.
Wally Amos, and you are listening to the Daily Bread Radio. It's the best in radio.
Wow.
Hey, boy. Did you hear it? Wait a minute. Play it again. I ain't hear it, man.
Man, go
Play
ahead,
it one
man.
more time, man. One more time. You got to play that one more
Aloha,
time.
this is Wally Amos, and you are listening to the Daily Bread Radio. It's the best.
Whoa! Boy, I tell you, that was the best.
I'm going, boy. I told you, man. I told you. That's what we do. That's what we do, man. That's what we do. But
That is brand.
yeah, man. Excellent show. And for the people that are on Facebook Live, if you haven't had the opportunity to listen, go back and listen. I'm telling you, if you take the time, go back and listen. That 90 minutes will change your life. I'm talking about, this is an 82-year-old man that is, when I say famous, that's an understatement. At 82, everywhere I went with him, Cornbread was with him the whole time. Everywhere I went with him, once a person found out who he was, man, we went and ate at this restaurant. These were some young, these girls like my kids' age. They like 25, 26. They didn't realize who he was at first. We just sat there, ordered food, ate, laughed, joked, talked. We got ready to leave. He said, I got to go to the bathroom. He went to the bathroom. Me and Cornbread was talking. Oh, yeah. So he's like, yeah, you don't know who that is? They was like, no. We said, that's Wally Amos. They was like, who? It's like, famous Amos fan. They was like, no. I was like, when he come out, and them girls seen him. Oh, come on, let me take a selfie with me. He was like a selfie. He said, okay then, come on.
Do what you do.
Do it. Hey, me and Cornbread standing there like, hey, what? They just booted us out the way.
I told him I was famous too.
They was like, man, go on with that.
Man, go ahead, don't stop playing.
Go and get them cookies and ease them up. Man, awesome show, man. But definitely, I appreciate everybody for joining in this week. And it's getting close to football season. I'm gonna close with that. It's getting close to that time.
The game on tonight.
Yes, sir.
Who on tonight? Not Pittsburgh.
Nah.
Nah, whoever, man. Please don't say Pittsburgh on
It's
tonight.
a game on tonight.
I know it's a game on tonight. You ain't got to look it up. We gonna catch it, man. The Jaguars practicing this weekend on the Falcons.
That's all they're doing.
It's just practice.
That's all they're doing the whole year practice.
Oh, they gonna practice on y'all real good.
Yeah, that's all they're doing.
Real good.
Well, they ain't beat nobody.
Oh, boy, wait, we got the Giants week 1. Y'all ain't gonna want to see this. Y'all ain't gonna want to see this. I promise you, man. I promise you. But everybody out there, I appreciate everybody joining. I seen JB. I seen you, man. Make sure that you call me so you can get your book, man. We can promote it. Johnny Bowman got a new book that's coming out that's going to bless you. Like I seen the excerpt from what he posted, man. Powerful book, man. So we're going to have Johnny Bowman on. I see my son, the King Jr. I seen him on. I seen my lovely wife on, Tanya Thompson. I seen my daughter on earlier. My other daughter's more than like she's probably in the ER, probably getting off of work. But thank you for everybody. Teresa, I seen you on. Shout out to the team and down and where Duval.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, baby, it's getting crunk up. Boy, them Jaguars about to get them. They about to be. Hey!
Well, you ain't gonna stop.
I ain't gonna stop. But man, we appreciate y'all for joining this week. Next Thursday, same place, same time, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. DKM Radio, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Y'all join us right here because we're gonna be disseminating some information that's gonna bless your life. And with that, this week is your house in order.
You ain't gonna stop.
No, is your house in order? Turn the microphone off.
He ain't gonna stop.
Order. That's what's up. Hey, boy, love you, cornbread. Hey, we gone, baby.
You're a lot of hearts. I don't want to cut off when I get you the hearts.
No, don't cut off when they give me the heart. Is your house in order?
They keep coming.
Hey, boy. That was on point, man. Yeah, man, have all my notes and stuff for the show. Time to put the fun hat on, boy.